Welcome to Whisky.com, where fine spirits meet. My name is Lüning, Horst Lüning. I'm the senior taster of Whisky.com. This is my son Ben, the master taster, and today we're looking at the second Glen Moray whiskey here in our cask. It's the Cabernet Cask finish from the new series of Chardonnay, Cabernet, and Sherry Cask finish whiskies. If you're interested a little bit more in the distillery itself, we talked about that in the video about the Chardonnay cask finish of Glen Moray.
Yes, we just had the Chardonnay, and now we're having the Cabernet. The first one was a white wine, and the Cabernet is now a red wine.
Yes,
Okay.
and this one is now a euro more expensive than the other. So in Central Europe here it costs 23.90 euros, and it's a cheap one. Carries no age statement, is a finished whiskey, and Cabernet is a red wine grape. Everybody knows the Cabernet because it's worldwide number one in the area where they grow the wine on. So over 310,000 hectares. And the Cabernet is a very, very old, the predecessor of this grape is very, very old. The Cabernet is a natural breeding between the Cabernet Franc and the Sauvignon Blanc. And the result was a red one. So could have been a white one, no, a red one. And typically this Cabernet is at home in the Bordeaux region where they grow it everywhere. And that's one of my favorites. So I like the Cabernet Sauvignon very much. And I'm very interested now in this one.
Mm-hmm. I think we've talked about the distillery in the last video enough, so
yep.
Let's have a try then.
So it's a wonderful distillery with a lot of different cask maturation. So this series of whiskies is quite natural that they bring it out. So this one, 40% ABV as the others have. And where's the opener? Here's the opener. Glen Moray brought out these wine-finished whiskies decades ago, and the first had been the Chardonnay, and the Cabernet now is quite new, if I remember right. So these pot still shaped neck of the bottle, I like it.
Yeah, it's a nice feature in the bottle.
So this is different to the Chardonnay. This has more depth, has more fruit, darker fruit. Still this apple note on it, but a little bit probably candied, and a honey touch to it. Yeah, the wine note isn't really present. I think this change in the fruitiness has to do with the wine note in it. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I know the Glen Moray, and what I find really strange in here is I don't find the red wine note dominating, but the distillery character of honey and sweetness and caramel, that not caramel, honey is it is in their heraldry, and that is very present for me in this whiskey. I do have a bit of a winey grape note, but for me the roundness, creaminess, honey note is what is dominating here.
Yeah,
I like it.
Now where you say it, I have a smell of these light red winey notes as well.
Mm-hmm. But it's just a nuance.
Yeah, and now the cask is shining through already, so I'm smelling long enough at the whiskey.
Mm-hmm.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Mm-hmm. as with the Chardonnay first, here the cask takes over quite heftily, and the whiskey hadn't been that smooth in the taste as the Chardonnay had. The Cabernet is stronger on my tongue, probably because it's the third one I have on my tongue, but showing more. And there's a little of dark chocolate, a light note going over to this coffee note in the back, and little sweetness, spiciness. Yeah, there's definitely more in it.
For me, definitely what you said. Dark chocolate, much more volume, but somehow a little bit more spiciness. That oak has a bit of a bitter touch to it, so it goes into a bittersweet chocolate. And yeah, it doesn't have that typical wine finish or wine matured grapey wine note in it, but it has more of that, these darker notes, chocolate, bittersweetness, oaks. That is very present in this one. It's combined with a little bit of sweetness, so a little bit bittersweet, but the bitterness and the chocolate notes that really come in strong here.
So I have an imagination what will be in the sherry cask finishing, and if I compare the Chardonnay with the Cabernet, I would say the Chardonnay is lighter, is more easy, and the Cabernet shows more complexity, more difficulty, probably also more oakiness, which some people do not like because they say it's too strong.
Aren't the Bordeaux also pretty strong and pretty?
So you have a lot of
intense Bordeaux.
You have typically a hefty barrique maturation in those, but the acidity in those wines typically cover all this barrique, and if the barrique is intense, then it shines through, but then it has a lot of oakiness in those wines. So the typical easy one season barrique matured wine from Bordeaux is far less. Yeah.
Well, I like it. You have to like it when you have a bit of a more hefty, darker whiskey with stronger tones in it. But I do like it, and still they give you a really good price. These sherry casks and port casks, they're all going through the roof with their price, whereas the wine casks look like they can still be affordable.
Yeah, probably France had a very cold season last year, so in parts of the country 70% of the grapes are gone, just frozen, and the amount of wine coming out of France is low, so prices will rise, and probably this has an influence on the casks. There are casks available which they do not use, so it is easier to sell them.
But the company with Glen Moray, they do have really good connections with the French, because they
are French.
Glen Moray just have been bought by the French a few years ago.
Wine from the wine industry. Yeah.
So they have the casks.
Yeah.
They can trade them internally. Yeah. So that was our take on the Glen Moray Cabernet Cask finish. Thank you very much for watching, and see you next time.